Today in Brussels, NATO's leadership faced the press after one of the most serious incidents in recent months, a wave of Russian drone incursions into Polish airspace. What unfolded was not simply another military briefing, but a firm reminder of the alliance's commitment to defend its members and a clear demonstration of unity in the face of provocation. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg began by confirming that in the early hours of Wednesday, September 10th, multiple Russian drones had crossed into Poland. NATO's air defences were immediately activated and responded successfully. He stressed that while this was the largest concentration of airspace violations yet, it was not an isolated event. Russia's pattern of behaviour has been growing steadily along NATO's eastern flank. Drones, Stoltenberg explained, have also violated the airspace of Romania, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania in recent months. Stoltenberg said, "Whether intentional or not, it is dangerous and unacceptable." The Secretary-General emphasised that the reckless actions of Russia presented a shared challenge to the entire alliance. Following the incident, Poland requested urgent Article 4 consultations at the North Atlantic Council. Allies, Stoltenberg said, responded quickly, expressed full solidarity with Warsaw and unanimously denounced Russia's behaviour. At the heart of his remarks was NATO's mission. The alliance's core task, he reminded the press, is to deter aggression and defend every member state from external threats. Safeguarding our eastern flank is of utmost importance, he said. He described the robust system already in place. Forward land forces stationed in 8 countries, air defences and ground and sea-based systems contributed by allies across Europe and North America. Together, these forces train and operate every day to ensure readiness. But in light of Wednesday's escalation, NATO is now taking another step. Stoltenberg announced the launch of a new mission, one designed to reinforce the alliance's presence and deterrence posture. Stoltenberg said, "Today, General Cavoli and I are here to announce that NATO is launching Eastern Sentry to bolster our posture even further along our eastern flank." The Secretary-General explained that Eastern Sentry will begin in the coming days and will involve forces from Denmark, France, the United Kingdom, Germany and other allies. Unlike previous operations, this mission will integrate counter-drone capabilities alongside conventional forces, giving NATO greater flexibility and resilience against one of the fastest evolving threats on the battlefield. He made clear that Eastern Sentry is a defensive measure, underscoring NATO's readiness to act while maintaining its character as a defensive alliance. At that point, Stoltenberg handed the floor to General Christopher G. Cavoli, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe. General Cavoli began by praising the swift and coordinated NATO response earlier in the week. He explained that the new mission would be built on integrated layered defences, air and ground systems working seamlessly together. He described how, just days earlier, he had spoken with leaders in Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia about NATO's response to the Polish incident. For them, the stakes could not be clearer. Cavoli said, "What affects one ally affects us all. This is an issue that impacts all of the alliance, and we will treat it as such." He went on to explain that Eastern Sentry would provide flexible, agile deterrence, deploying enhanced capabilities where and when they are needed. It will integrate air and ground defences, increase information sharing, and accelerate the fielding of new technologies such as counter-drone sensors and weapons. Forces from France, Germany, Denmark and the United Kingdom have already announced contributions, with more expected soon. Cavoli made clear the message to citizens. Poland and the alliance as a whole should feel reassured. NATO will continue to defend every inch of its territory, he said. After Cavoli's remarks, Stoltenberg returned to reinforce the broader point. NATO, he reminded, is a defensive alliance, committed not to provocation but to protection. He said Wednesday's incident remains under assessment, but whether deliberate or accidental, the violation of NATO airspace by Russian drones was deeply dangerous. He described Eastern Sentry as a mission designed to strengthen NATO's posture, add flexibility to its defence, and ensure the safety of its eastern flank. The floor then opened to questions. One reporter asked if NATO's increased deployments along the eastern flank might reduce resources available to Ukraine. Should NATO not consider directly engaging drones over western Ukraine before they crossed into Allied territory? Cavoli replied firmly. Eastern Sentry, he said, was focused on defending NATO's territory. He saw no conflict between national contributions to Ukraine and commitments to NATO defence. Another question pressed whether NATO's interception of Russian drones in Polish airspace had brought the alliance closer to direct war with Russia. Stoltenberg responded with unmistakable clarity. He said, "What this shows is that we will defend every inch of NATO territory, every inch of Allied territory, all 32 allies." Whatever the intent was, it was reckless, it was unacceptable. These are Russian drones, and it is extremely serious. He added that NATO remains a defensive alliance, not an offensive one. Its mission, he said, is to protect its 1 billion citizens and defend the freedoms guaranteed since the alliance's founding in 1949. Cavoli was asked whether NATO's interception had truly been a success, given that only a portion of the drones were shot down. He defended the operation as highly effective, carried out by Dutch F-35s and other assets. He acknowledged that NATO always reviews engagements to learn and adapt, but said the sheer scale of the incursion underscored the importance of bringing additional resources into the fight. He explained that sustainability would come from innovation, including lower-cost defensive weapons to complement high-end systems. Above all, he stressed that the soldiers, pilots and personnel defending NATO must never hesitate because of costs. "I don't want them thinking about how much their weapons cost. I want them defending our citizens." Attention then turned to Washington's role. A Reuters correspondent asked whether President Trump's reaction, his comment, "What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones?" Here we go, was sufficient. Stoltenberg replied that the US commitment to NATO is ironclad. He pointed to Trump's recent call with the Polish president as a strong gesture of support. Cavoli confirmed that while US kinetic assets were not involved in the interception due to rotation schedules, America remains fully integrated within NATO's command structure. On the size and scope of Eastern Sentry, Cavoli explained that the mission would cover the entire eastern flank, from the high north to the Black Sea. Modelled on the earlier Baltic Sentry, which successfully deterred attacks on undersea infrastructure, the mission will adapt posture and resources based on the evolving threat picture. Another journalist asked when Eastern Sentry would begin and whether the European Union's proposed drone wall would play a role. Cavoli revealed that he had already issued the order for Eastern Sentry to begin immediately, even as the press conference was taking place. He said the idea of a drone wall aligns well with NATO's own efforts, drawing on lessons from Ukraine about effective sensors and weapons. Stoltenberg added that NATO and the EU are working closely, with NATO setting defence standards and the EU contributing industrial and financial support. Asked if NATO was playing catch-up on air defence, Cavoli rejected the notion. He pointed to NATO's strong performance in Poland as proof of readiness, while acknowledging that the unprecedented scale of the incursion justified new measures. NATO, he said, is a learning organisation that adapts rapidly from every incident. Stoltenberg was asked whether NATO had greater clarity on Russia's intent. He said assessments continue, and while the exact purpose of the drones remains under review, the conclusion is already clear. Even if they were not intended to go into Poland, it is reckless, it is unacceptable. Cavoli added that beyond new assets like French Rafales, Danish F-16 and additional ground-based defences, Eastern Sentry represents a fundamental shift. Unlike previous fragmented deployments, it will create a comprehensive, integrated defence stretching across the entire eastern flank, with better communication and coordination than ever before. Finally, reporters raised concerns about differing member state approaches to Ukraine. Could such divisions weaken NATO's resolve? Stoltenberg was unequivocal. Russian drones in NATO airspace are unacceptable, deliberate or not. Allies, he said, are united in defence. Cavoli confirmed he had the authority to expand Eastern Sentry if Russian aggression escalates, without seeking a fresh mandate each time. The press conference ended with both leaders projecting a message of strength and unity. Stoltenberg reminded the world that NATO will always defend its territory, and Cavoli outlined the practical steps already underway to ensure that defence. The conclusion was unmistakable. Russia's drones had crossed into NATO territory, and NATO had responded. With Eastern Sentry now underway, the alliance is sending an unambiguous signal. Its resolve is firm, its defences are ready, and its members are united in defending every inch of Allied soil.